even in the beginning days, who would say, "Oh, I don't connect with your spirituality," or "It's too traditional for me," or "It's too norm breaking for me," because I always talked about taboo topics. It could be sex, could be death, could be, tantra. So the taboo topics were well received, but nobody wanted to pay for it at that time. They didn't want, because now I can, if I connect the dots, I see maybe they thought, okay, he's too young, maybe, why should we pay for this? People don't want to pay for spiritual work. They could pay for anything and everything in life, but they don't want to pay for spiritual work. So I was really observing human behavior there, and I realized that it doesn't matter what kind of people are showing up. They could be people with a lot of money or people with no money, but the ones who will pay for this are those who understand the value of their own life and growth.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome to Her Ascension Story, the podcast that proves the world is transformed by every hero's personal adventure. Here we talk about the real and the raw things that we should all be talking about more. So if you want to be a part of the movement of getting real about the deeper, more meaningful things about life, be sure to subscribe and follow and get ready to get real. My hope is that this platform inspires you to explore and expand new empowering beliefs about yourself so you can make your own impassionate impact too. And those three pillars, inspiration, independence, and impact, aren't just the premise for this podcast, but for my work too. If you want to check out that more, be sure to go to herascensionstory.com or check me out on social media at herascensionstory. Hey everyone. So, Chandresh and I experienced quite a few technical difficulties while recording this episode, but despite all of that, there's still some really good gold in Chandresh's story, and I couldn't bring myself to not publish this. I know that it had a profound impact on me to just listen and go through this chat, and I think that it could do the same thing for you. So take this, with a grain of salt. Just really try to dive in and forgive any kind of, fuck ups in this. It's a really good episode. Just give it a listen. I hope that you guys find some gold in it too. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited for today's episode. Today with us is Chandresh Bhardwaj, who is an author, spiritual advisor, and speaker. His bestseller book and podcast, Break the Norms, presents thought-provoking ideas on how we perceive relationships, sex, spirituality, and all of the other essential aspects of life. With nods from both the Dalai Lama and Dr. Deepak Chopra, Chandresh offers a fresh, trailblazing voice in contemporary spiritual teaching. Currently based in Los Angeles, Chandresh has been long fascinated by the incredible power of the human consciousness and shares that the truth must be realized from within. You can learn more about his work at cbmeditates.com or connect with him on Instagram at cbmeditates, which is how I found him a few years ago and started following him. And it's been such a deeper dive into myself just through exploring his work and following him. So I highly recommend that. And with that said, thank you so much, Chandresh, for being here. It is such an honor to hear your story and to get to share it.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast.
So I really love the work that you do. I've been following you for a few years on Instagram, and recently kind of started studying with your meditations and all that stuff. When you go live, you actually gave me the first Sanskrit mantra that had the most profound impact on me. And you have this
Nice.
special way of embracing the divine feminine in all of its complexity in spirituality, which I think is really kind of special right now, because everything just seems like love and light and all of that. You really bring it home with authenticity. And it's so, the authentic presence really makes a difference. So were you always like that in the spirituality, like being authentic, or did you have to actually go through certain phases to get where you are now?
By the way, that's very, very kind of you to say everything that you said. Thank you. I feel, Sarah, I have never tried to be in any way. I mean, what you see as authentic work, for me, I've simply been trying to do things my way. I'm glad they show up as authentic, right? I'm glad they show up, in all the great, inspiring, and empowering ways to you and others. But what I have been really trying to do is just sticking to my own fire, my own courage. What I have been really meditating on pretty much most of my life is, embracing the courage to live my truth, to express my truth, and to just bloom in the way that brings me closer to divinity. I grew up in India. I grew up in family of gurus. Thankfully, my guru is a very open-minded teacher. So I was exposed to all the belief systems, religion. I was never forced to stick to Hindu culture or any form of divinity. I was given the freedom to just dive into whatever shows up as the divine, awareness for me. And for some reason, feeling the pull toward what I call baby consciousness, but what you're calling divine feminine. I feel one of the reasons is because I come from Tantra lineage, and Tantra is all about the honoring the divine feminine. So for me, I don't have the specific reason why I started feeling the pull toward divine feminine, but my best guess is that I have been meditating on these Tantra goddesses forever. They became the source of my strength, inspiration, courage, poetry, and I feel somewhere in my heart, I just felt the need to honor them, to spread the word about them that they are there for you if you stay receptive to them. Also, one of my habits or tendency as a child was to observe a lot. I was not very talkative kid, very introvert, very shy, but most introverts observe a lot. So I used to observe, still observe a lot of human behavior. And I clearly saw that when a woman is empowered, when you give her the space to flow, space to evolve and be creative, she changes everything around her. But when she's suppressed, she's abused, that ruins pretty much the entire energy. And I have seen examples of strong women in my family. I've seen examples of abused, women around my neighborhood in India. And after I moved to USA, I've seen that the difference. So I started feeling that maybe this is what we need to do, channeling spirituality to empower the feminine energy, not just in women, but also in men and also around us. So to answer your question, maybe bunch of factors blended in and created the person that I am today.
I love that. And so I remember listening to one of your podcast episodes, and you said that you went to college in America and you started out on Wall Street and you
Mhm.
completely shifted gears. So, what actually drew you to embrace the courage to actually make that change? And then it wasn't easy, too. I remember listening to some of the struggles,
Mhm.
your talks, and stuff like that. If you could shed some light on that, that would
Yeah.
be amazing. I would love to hear those stories.
So my, love for spirituality was always there. That's the only thing I think I've always loved besides, stories and cinema and stuff. I love good music, different languages of music, different languages of cinema. So besides the a good cinema, what I obsessively loved was the spiritual world, anything and everything about mantras, consciousness, tantra, that was deep part of my heart. The reason, a lot of people feel that getting out of finance into spirituality was taking a different direction. But the truth is, going into finance was a detour from my natural, journey. I got into finance for no good reason. Everyone in my school and college, they were applying for jobs. Everyone needed a job, and I simply followed that template. There was not much thought put into it. I mean, at that time, I was working very hard to get good grades, to be accepted by some good companies. And I thought maybe I'm moving in right direction. And my intention was to work in Wall Street for a few years and then leave Wall Street and start some sort of, school, spiritual school after I complete 20, 30
Hmm.
years of my work in finance. That was the whole thing, because I also realized that you cannot run a spiritual work on a good scale if you don't have money in your pocket. It's 20 you know it's That was 2009 when I graduated from college. So I knew that in this age and time I can't just think of running a spiritual school and have nothing in my pocket. So I need to have some financial cushion. So that was the reasoning really behind going into finance. But after I got into finance, I started feeling extremely unhappy, uh, stressed out, anxiety, and I didn't feel this is where I belong. And I'm so glad that the treatment I was seeing around, and also the lack of acceptance, or just I clearly saw there are departments, there are boxes in the finance industry, just like there are clubs and groups in every industry, including spirituality, that if you want to be part of certain group, you have to do the things they like. You have to show them you're one of them. And when I saw the whole rules of the game, I realized I don't want to be part of this game, and I decided to leave. And that's when my journey with spiritual work really started. I had no clue what I would be doing in the spiritual field and how exactly I'll be earning my, bread and butter. I had zero knowledge about it, zero clue. But I was hopeful, and I also strongly felt there's nothing else I want to do. So that's what really inspired me. And you are right, in the beginning, no one showed up for my talks, and I shared that with my father. Actually, I didn't share it with my father. He's my guru, and he saw me, just feeling depressed and anxious and fearful, after I started this work. And he asked me, he said, "I know you're stressed out. Is it because, people are not coming to your talks?" I said, "No, I'm fine." The when you're younger, when you know little, your ego is the strongest. When life experiences happen, you humble yourself. But when they are at the lowest level, that's when you feel you know it all. The ego is at its peak. So when I was, 21, 22, the ego was at its peak. I didn't want to, look fragile or weak in front of my father. So I said, "No, I'm fine. I got it all. You don't need to worry about me." And he said, "Okay, whatever, whatever you feel is right is fine. But just so you know, they're not coming because you don't want them to come. When you want them to come, they'll show up." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I'm putting down all the, ads, and I'm really trying to, do the right online marketing. And he said, "I don't know about the marketing, but I can tell you, you don't want to be seen right now. When you want to be seen, they will show up." And he was absolutely right. I didn't want to be seen. I was not sure if I'm qualified enough to do this work, if I'm ready enough to do this work. And that was such a learning lesson. Even when the talks, when people really started to show up, I used to sit in the corner of the room, and I used to give talks sitting on a small chair, sit in the corner. And I had no clue why I would sit in that corner. I just didn't want to be seen. I was like, "I know you have to hear me, so just hear me, but don't see me." And I would keep the lights very, very dim. I still keep the lights dim. I think that bit of darkness. But in those days the lights were dim only because I didn't want to be seen. But it takes experiences, practices. When I started seeing that my work is actually making a difference in people's life, then my wings started to expand. Then I started to feel that I am supported by some known and unknown forces. And it's those forces which continue to give me courage and hope every day in every way possible. And I genuinely feel it's not me who's doing the work. There is a higher power who's channeling this work through me. And I'm just grateful that I'm that medium right now.
Hmm. You hit there. You talked about money and spirituality and how I feel a lot of times people kind of have like that not martyr or beggar complex, but that like you can't have a lot of money and be spiritual at the same time. Um, but you really shine light on that, and I love how you do that. But you also hit a point about the ego's strength and how think you know everything. Like the ego is at its strongest. Do you feel like it was
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
ego or just kind of like not feeling ready, like on a soul level for your path, that like that feeling of not wanting to be seen? Or do you feel like you just didn't feel supported by those forces yet? Or what really, what do you think was the source of that not wanting to be seen and not feeling ready and not feeling qualified? Because I remember from a different podcast episode, you grew up watching your dad's work and you really got like the inside
Right.
scoop on
I
everything. And
think
it seems like you're just
first
so
reason
qualified.
why I didn't feel qualified was my father. He's extremely humble man, and he puts himself in a very, childlike state. He always says that, he's the most ignorant student of spirituality. So I grew up around some very powerful teachers who always said they are the most ignorant students of spirituality. So I knew that they are like really, really intelligent, profound, wise teachers, but look at their humbleness. And do I have any of that? Am I humble enough? Am I, wise enough? Am I, profound enough? And we struggle with that self-worthiness at that young age, right? I was very young. I was when I decided to do this, I was 21, so I was very young, and that was number one source. Number two, the benchmark was very high. Like my grandfather, he was my father's teacher. He passed away when I was 5 year old, but I have been hearing stories of his healing, his wisdom. I have memories with him until the years he lived, and he's amazing teacher, amazing healer. And I still put flowers on his picture in my altar. So the standards were so high, and I was like, I cannot meet this standard. This is too much. This is such a high benchmark. My father is able to predict and read people's energy, who are sitting far away. He doesn't know anything about their background, and he's able to just you know tell things which are just mind blowing. And I don't have that. And my father would always say, you have been meditating since the time you were like 5 year old. You are blessed. So when you walk into this field, you will be supported. But we just don't have that confidence. So uh, I thought of quitting many times, by the way, when I was not, when I was confused about blending the financial success with spiritual success. It was all a lot to handle. That how do I blend both of them? And I thought of quitting it and going back to banking, but then I would feel a very clear voice that that's not your jungle. You got to be here. Just have some faith. So it was really hoping and waiting and witnessing each day as it comes. And it was for many years, it was just hope and wait, and but staying in your authentic voice, because there was no other way, no other direction. The only school of spirituality I have learned is to be authentic and show up as you are. There's no need to put any costume. There's no need to show that you're spiritual. You don't have to look spiritual. You have to be spiritual. So that was the only mantra that I really, reminded myself, that as long as I'm honest and authentic within, it will work. At some point, my voice will be heard. So, yep, that's how it has been. Oh yeah. Hmm.
Those are huge obstacles to overcome to really stand tall in all of that. So you talked about blending the financial and the spiritual success and how that was kind of a struggle for you. How did you
One thing that
actually
was very clear
come
in
to
my
terms
head,
with that?
I did not have uncomfortable relationship with money. I respected money. In the Eastern traditions, we look at money as a form of divine energy. The goddess Lakshmi is known as the goddess of wealth and abundance. And I was very sure that I don't want to. sell spirituality. I don't want to be a salesman. I don't want to be, just putting this out there. I want the work to speak itself. And that's what will decide if I can financially grow in this or not. But I wanted it to happen in the most organic way. And I would come across people who loved the work from day one. So, one thing I want to share with you, the work was loved and accepted from day one. There was nobody, even in the beginning days, who would say, "Oh, I don't connect with your spirituality," or "It's too traditional for me," or "It's too norm breaking for me," because I always talked about taboo topics. It could be sex, could be death, could be, Tantra. So the taboo topics were well received, but nobody wanted to pay for it at that time. They didn't want, because now I can, if I connect the dots, I see maybe they thought, okay, he's too young, maybe, why should we pay for this? People don't want to pay for spiritual work. They could pay for anything and everything in life, but they don't want to pay for spiritual work. So I was really observing human behavior there, and I realized that it doesn't matter what kind of people are showing up. They could be people with a lot of money or people with no money, but the ones who will pay for this are those who understand the value of their own life and growth. So it was really a lot of lessons in human behavior, understanding how the energy of money wants to stay, grow, and evolve. But throughout this time, I didn't let my relationship with money go bitter. There was no time that I started developing uh, a hateful relationship with money that, oh, I'm not going to be successful enough. I'm not going to have enough money to pay bills and just survive in these big cities like New York or Los Angeles. Um, I was very clear that I want to make spirituality very well accessible, elegant, and a very modern, a tool. I don't want people to look at as something that worships poverty, because I do come across a lot of teachers who feel very uncomfortable with money and they think spirituality and poverty should go together. But you cannot meditate if if you don't have money, right? If you cannot pay your rent, and if I tell you do this mantra for 2 hours, trust me, you will not be able to do the mantra for 2 hours, because there is constant fear of having this, like if you don't have shelter on your head, you can't go deeper into spirituality. You need the financial abundance to grow spiritually. And I am becoming, more and more advocate of this, because I come across many new teachers. I've been training new teachers, and I clearly see when they start out their work, this is their biggest struggle, how to handle money versus spirituality. But I feel you got to heal your relationship with abundance. You got to really understand your relationship with everything that comes under that abundance, not just money, but also the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the love, the success, and affection that you receive from everyone.
I love how you worded it, how, you know, they come to you and it's just a learning process in general to unlearn how we were taught to suffer. That's really powerful. And that kind of goes along with the actual themes of, like true or authentic gurus in its true form and true meaning. So going like kind of shifting more towards the whole guru role and everything. So you grew up watching your dad's work. How do you think that the world kind of interprets the work that you do, especially when it comes to the taboo topics? Um, because of everything that has now
I can
become
tell you
mainstream with
one thing that I have
Tantra and
constantly felt,
spirituality and everything
that
else.
people have been trusting what I'm sharing, and I'm very grateful for that. When I share something, I have always received that trust from people. Even I live in LA, so I come across TV producers and all of those, and they always tell me, "Oh, we can't put this on mainstream media, but this is such an authentic work, and we love how you share about Tantra." And they tell me they are uncomfortable, with putting this traditional work out there, because people may not be ready. But if you ask my experience, anyone who's showing up to me, they are showing up with complete receptivity. And I feel one of the reason for that could be the growing platforms, where I can share, more of my work, like with my podcast, my book. uh, it's out there, it's free of cost, right? The podcast, there's like 78 episodes, all free of cost, and that gives people enough uh, glimpse into my universe, and they can really feel. And I think people uh, start to connect with it. Those who don't connect, they don't stay, but those who connect, they stay. But I'm very grateful for the growing tribe in the past 12 years. It started with just one person showing up in Long Island, and it has grown a lot since then, and I'm grateful.
Definitely. Absolutely. So, real quick, if we can just jump off topic, I'm just really interested. So, you said that some of the students that come to you, you can see how they have that struggle that you had as well. Do you feel like a lot who have actually gone through the same thing and overcome them, like the, oh, not to like be cliche, but how like the student finds the teacher in the ways that they need them? So do you feel like your students reflect the
Yeah,
lessons that
this
you've
is
been through,
such a good question, Sarah. I
and
have
can
been
help them
watching
with, and
actually
that's
the
why
kind of
they are attracted to you?
students I attract, and I see many similarities. Like, I feel number one element that I see in my students, it could be like, someone like you who's not like official student, but we have been interacting through, Instagram for a good amount of time. Or it could be someone who's very official student, studying with me every month. There are some really common elements, and the number one element is breaking their conditioning, unlearning how they were taught to suffer. And in that unlearning, I think so many factors come in. There is, unlearning uh, the whole lessons on money, that you don't deserve it, or unlearning how you were taught to suffer through relationships, or breaking the whole pattern of constant karmic contracts that show up again and again. But yes, I do feel, we teach what we need to learn. So the things that I have been really cultivating in my life, courage, growth, liberation, I can see these are the students I attract who are looking for growth, who are looking for liberation.
Oh, definitely. I'm so happy that you mentioned the book too, because I want to buy like 1,000 copies
Ah,
and just keep handing them out to people. I keep finding them on thrift
my God, I
books,
didn't
so
know
like
that.
a used
Thank
book
you.
app, and every single time it's available, I hurry up and grab it, and so that I just keep handing them out to people because and because you said that you want to kind of interpret all of this in a modern way so that it suits the modern world. What kind of struggles or obstacles have you faced with trying to translate the traditional
I could make like a
values and
really
verses
humorous Netflix
into a
show on
modern
this, like with at
practice
least five
for
seasons.
everyone to be able to do?
It's been funny. I used to be surprised. I've never been angry. I have been surprised, and then I just laugh it off. It doesn't make people, some of my students get angry on my behalf, and I'm like, please don't be angry. It's, this is just where we are, and there have been struggles. And I know the biggest struggle, is the mind, right? I teach about mind, so I have compassion for those who are not able to go beyond that predefined definition of tantra or meditation. And sometimes I'm asked the same question like 50 times in one week. I could do a whole workshop on tantra for 3 hours, and then someone from the group will show up and will compliment the talk, and they'll say, so tantra is not about sex, right? And I look at them, that's exactly what I've been explaining in the last 3 hours. But it's funny now because I see their mind is not able to let go of that belief, right? They want tantra to be about sex, so they again want that confirmation from me directly, one on one. That maybe they're hoping I'll say it is about sex, but I'm just telling people it's not about sex. So the struggles have been many. I remember many years ago I was approached by a spiritual school. They wanted me to do trainings for them, talks for them, and I was meeting them in a cafe in New York City. And they liked what I had to say, and it was all good. And then they asked me, So just one more question. Are you going to wear these kind of clothes when you show up for the talk? I was wearing like a cotton chinos and a linen shirt. And I said, yeah, I mean I wear shirt and pant mostly. Like, why? Do you want me to wear something else? They said, no, 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 we just want to make sure that this is how you dress up because we thought you are, guru, tantra guru coming from India, so maybe you'll dress up as something different when you do your talks. I said, no, this is just how I dress up. I could show up in jeans, I could show up in these shirts. I mean, I don't put on a costume. That this is just who I am. But when I shared that story, there were people who got uncomfortable that why would they say to you this is racist, and I said it's not racist because when you look out there you see there are a lot of people in mainstream spirituality who are trying to look spiritual, and these kind of people, they give out this idea that you have to look spiritual. This is what is counted as spirituality. And when people meet me, of course their mind is going to think maybe he also dresses up like them. Maybe he'll show up in some sort of orange clothing like Dalai Lama, and we'll just have to deal with it. But it's these kind of struggles just to explain that this is who I am. There's no other side to me. This is the person that you see is what you will get there. Because I think there is too much of complicated information out there about Tantra, about gurus, about teachers. And yeah, I think that's a struggle which is still there. People have their preconceived notions about this kind of work, but I'm hoping that each day in every way I can break that conditioning and pattern in them.
It's it's really powerful. I mean, when you go on Instagram and you look at
Hmm.
any account that has the word tantra in its handle, it really is geared more towards sex, and it's really crazy. And I know you've talked about this in your book, The Break the Norms, in the podcast, and all of the talks and podcasts that you've been featured on. So if you could just quickly paraphrase, you always say tantra is the science of self-awareness and self-discovery, and just knowing the self and connecting to that. If you could paraphrase what it is, and I guess how it's been misinterpreted. And also, do you feel like the misinterpretations are some sort of like duality that we have to go through in order to like find like a middle ground? Like we have to not understand it and then like go totally on the
Yeah,
opposite end of not
yeah,
understanding
I
it
like
to
how you said it.
actually
Sometimes
begin to open our
I
minds
think
to what it could really
when
be?
you are not
Or
open to a certain teaching, it clearly is a sign that somewhere in your heart, somewhere in your awareness, you are blocking the opening, right? You are suppressing that expansion. It's good to witness that block. It's good to pay attention to it. If you get rigid about it, then it will keep getting stronger. But if you are ready to listen and witness why you are guarding yourself against some sort of spiritual expansion, that's when you can expand the blocks. And with Tantra, that's just how it happens. Tantra is, it's a science of self-awareness, and it contains plenty of meditations, mantras, consciousness study, and Tantra is very inclusive. It does not say that you have to, go through some sort of layers to be accepted into it. Tantra is for everyone. It's for the homeless person sitting on a street in Hollywood, but it's also for, someone who's working in government office in China, and any culture, any belief system, someone who believes in God, someone who doesn't believe in God. It's for everyone. It's a science of awareness. We all have awareness. And that's where the complications begin. Because when something, has so much inclusiveness, human mind starts to abuse that. When you come across, let's say you get into a new relationship and you open your heart completely to that person. If that person is not ready, they will abuse this whole connection. They will abuse the love you are giving them. That's what happens with Tantra. It's so open, so generous, and if the other person is not ready, they might just abuse the whole teaching. And that's why the role of teacher, the role of guru is immensely important. It's the teacher who continues to, manage the energy, channel things in a much better way. And they are really your biggest, cheerleader in this process. But the Western world has their own discomfort with the word Tantra, and that's something I feel they need to be more educated on, because if you're not comfortable with the word guru, or if you're not comfortable in being guided by a teacher, then your spiritual growth will only to a certain extent, to a certain level, and that's sad.
Yeah, definitely. So, in your own tantric journey,
I think
what has been the most
the
helpful
most
advice
helpful
or
advice
activity for your path and your
has been to
process?
open up and connecting to the feminine energy within me. I I used to meditate for hours. I got so intense into meditation that as a teenager I would sit all night into meditation, and I started feeling that it's not going anywhere. Obviously I was really becoming very masculine, very aggressive, right? And hoping for some sort of change in meditation, and that was my masculine energy, wanting some sort of final outcome. And it was during that time that my guru told me that it's great. You're showing up so much of devotion, so much of love, and so much of commitment. But it won't happen until you embrace the feminine within you, because you are, trying to connect with the cosmos, the universe, the divine feminine, and our entire cosmic consciousness is feminine in nature. The entire energy of Tantra is feminine in nature. So, to embrace that feminine energy, you have to open up the feminine energy in you, which means be more receptive to your emotions. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to trust your breathing. Don't be afraid to express your emotions. All the things that men are basically trained not to do. And that was, I think, extremely helpful advice. And I feel, I've always been writing poetry, and in those days I used to write it very secretively, because poetry is vulnerable and I didn't want anyone to see what I'm writing. But it gave me just the courage and outlet that I can use my poetry to channel that vulnerability, to channel that sensitivity in me. But that's been the life changing advice, I think.
Oh, I love that so much. What sort of goals or dreams have come to fruition because of
The
this
biggest goal that has come to
transformation
fruition
of
is that I
embracing
have
the
uh,
divine
dropped all the
feminine
goals.
energy
I've
in you?
stopped going behind the goals, and I've started showing up for life as it is. And I really mean it. Like, I haven't had a goal in years. I really show up for life as it comes. I have intentions. I plant seeds for certain intentions. Like, for example, I could have intention to express my truth. I have intention to embrace the unknown. I have intention to live my courage. But there's no goal. There's no goal to have my podcast reach out to, certain amount of people. There's no goal to expand my work in different countries. They used to be the goals many moons ago, but I'm glad. I'm a very goalless guy right now, and I really like it.
Small smiles over here. I love hearing that. It's so inspiring because, I mean, all over the world, but especially, in Western society, you're in America as a whole, like the whole American dream. I mean, it's in like our country's slogan
Yeah.
to have dreams and
I
have
grew up
goals and
in a very
to
small town. I was very
strive for
ambitious.
accomplishment
I
and
used
everything
to
else.
really read all the biographies of the leaders, and I would read three newspapers every Sunday morning just to make sure what's happening in the world. I live in this small bubble in my, small town in Himalayas, and then I got to New York. I saw the, big buildings, ambition, glamour, wealth, everything was there. And I started to realize that the goals we have, they are such a tiny expression of our consciousness. There is an entire universe waiting to unfold through us, but we get so stuck on these so-called goals that we never explore that entire universe. But I'll tell you, if I had any specific goals, I would not have been able to be the person that I am today. Like, I am much more receptive, intuitive, sensitive, compassionate, creative, and it's all happening because I am becoming more and more, trusting toward the unknown, and that whole unknown is really being a best friend, in my journey.
Hmm. So you have the unknown and you have these unseen forces, and of course, your father's wisdom and support behind you. But what does the rest of your support system look like? Not just in your work, but in your life in
Honestly,
general. And
I
how
feel
does it kind
this
of
is
nourish
no one
you
has asked me
to
this
keep growing
question,
in the space that you are?
but I think my support system uh, is really good. I'm not good at asking for help. I am not good at telling someone that I need your help. I'm so used to of giving help, but I'm not used to of asking for help. But I'll tell you, among the unseen forces, like you said, the unseen forces and the unknown forces, the family, of course, has been a great support. But in my spiritual work, I think the biggest motivating factor is the students, the people who have been, really giving me this encouragement for so many years. With your family, you're not the guru, you're not the teacher, you're just Chandresh, right? And they treat you that way, and it's so good. You want some people in your life who know nothing about your work so that you can just be yourself there. And but for me, my work is huge driving force. So family brings that humbleness, that relaxation. Friends or the people who reach out through podcast, through social media, they are really big support because they have shared so many personal stories with me. Every day I get few messages, and they would share, I read this chapter and I took this decision. It changed my life. Where I heard this podcast, and I'm crying. It changed my life completely. Thank you for doing that. And I, had no clue that my work, my sharing will have such an impact. And that's why I keep encouraging everyone that it doesn't matter uh, what you are sharing, as long as you're sharing, that's what matters, because it will touch people's life. You may not know, like, a very simple thing, leaving Wall Street was not a huge decision for me, honestly. I knew that I have to leave it. It wasn't a revolutionary thing. I faced some criticism, and I had to deal with some challenges at that time, but it wasn't something that I had huge struggle with. I would have done it no matter what. But that one decision has inspired so many people in my friend circle, in my student circle. And I'm just amazed that one decision that I took at the age of 21, 22 has inspired so many people. So, and they support me by, you know, going deeper into their transformation. So this is one major support system, because see, the truth is, you could have the biggest support coming from your family, but if your tribe is not there for you, then you feel lost and you're like, for whom I'm doing all of this? No one is there to listen, right? And a singer cannot perform to no audience. They can enjoy the singing, but at one point, comes a time when they want at least one person to hear their melody, because that's why they're creating it. So I feel the support that comes from these strangers, and I hate calling them strangers. I feel like you and I have never met, Sarah, but I have such a deep respect for you. I feel I know you, but you are the support, So this is how I have been really honoring the support, coming from everyone out there.
I love that. It's so, it's just so profound, the impact that our choices that feel so natural for us can make. But I've asked this question to quite a few people, and it's never that sort of answer. It's never the people that you quote unquote serve that feel like your support system or your tribe or anything like that. So I really love that perspective. Do you feel like that's sort of what you
No,
love
I
most
love.
about your life
I'm
in this
someone
space where you are
who
now, or
likes
is
to
it
love
something
more
else
than
or
one
many
element,
other things
and I
or
think even right now I have more than one element. It's bunch of factors. besides the family and the support system coming from the tribe, I feel the music, the poetry, the nature. I have to indulge in these experiences on a daily basis. Uh, I have to listen to some song. It could be in any language, but I by the way, I love listening to songs in different languages because you don't understand the meaning, but they are taking you somewhere, and that feeling is beautiful. It's very, strange feeling that a song of different language, different culture, it's just pulling you in. And my YouTube algorithm knows me now, so they keep recommending me the songs from different languages. So it's that factor. Plus, I think it being in the nature, I do not skip any day of walking or running out there. Just connecting with poetry, reading or writing. It's very healing for me. And I don't need a lot of gathering around me. I'm very, private, introvert in that sense. I live in LA, and I live in like heart of Hollywood, which is surrounded by parties and clubs, but I cannot go there. Like if you will never see me in a crowded gathering because by the time you are about to see me, I would have run away from there. I go there to show my face if I have to, and that's like once in a year. But yeah, that's the only thing I have realized that it's not at all my jungle. Being in social gatherings.
I can relate to that. I can also relate to the music. I I think you know how Spotify gives you your
I didn't know that.
roundup, and
Nice.
it's always like how many countries you've had music from on your
Mm.
playlists. And my goal is to
Oh wow.
oh yeah, and my goal for this year is to get over 100 because last year I was at like 70 some, and it's so true though. You
Right.
have this music that you don't
It
understand
is,
what they're
right?
saying, but you can
Absolutely.
feel every bit of it. And like you said, it's a journey. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get kind of back on track now. So, do you have any future plans coming up? Of course, you know, we're going through the pandemic and everything, but if you have any sort of plans that you would like to share, that would be awesome,
So,
or how
as of
people
now,
can find your work,
the
like how you do
podcast is
the
being updated every week,
meditations and stuff
and
like
I
that every week.
invite everyone to listen to that. There's live meditation happening on my Instagram every Sunday. Everyone is welcome to join that. In addition to that, there's a book out there, Break the Norms, and I'm working on an online school, which should be ready with its first meditation offering in few months. But that's what the tribe has gifted me with. When you ask me who's your biggest support system, the reason I mentioned my tribe is because it's because of their love, their acceptance of me, that I was able to, work on this online school. And it's going to be out in few months. And I feel why I give them the credit because whenever I have interacted with the big groups, could be publishing, could be media groups, they always have this hesitation that, oh, he comes from he has a certain accent, certain color, is he going to be accepted, is his work going to be accepted, it's traditional tantra, is there a market for it? So all of these inquiries drain you and exhaust you, but when the tribe keeps telling you that we want more from you, that's what gives you confidence. And I'm so grateful that they gave me the courage to work on this online school, which should be out uh, by the beginning of next year, 2021. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Amazing. That's
Mhm.
so exciting. Congratulations. Okay, so I just have one last question. I love asking this question. I think it's good to be asked, but also for everybody listening to ask themselves. So the
Superhero
question
inside
is,
me, I
who is the
think I'm
superhero inside of
instantly
you
thinking
that
of
has
Jungle
all the
World.
power you
I
could ever need?
I connect with lions a lot. I think my superhero has been Lion in Jungle, who's carefree at times, but whose presence radiates a lot of strength, a lot of grace, a lot of power. And but Lion is also intuitively very connected, and they have a way of just changing the energy when they walk into a place. So as a self-obsessed Leo, I'll just say lion is my superhero.
And that's the end of this episode. I have so much gratitude for Chandresh coming on and sharing his story despite all the difficulties that we had trying to do so. And I'm exuding so much thanks for you guys to still be listening. Thanks for hanging with us throughout all the difficulties. And like I said, I hope you found some gold within this episode. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, I love you. I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope that this episode has somewhat inspired you to take control, given you the tools to feel secure and on fire in your own independence, and help to unlock within you the impact that you're here to make. You're not born with a purpose. You're born as your purpose. It's already inside of you, and it's your responsibility in this life to live that in the truest way possible. If you've gotten any sort of value out of this episode, please share it so that we can together expand our inspiration and our impact in this world.